Well, fire me up. I have the next 3 days to work on this car, and I really don't have much else going on other than that. I tried clearing my schedule. That side rear triangulation of the suspension is done. This side is just about done. I have to add this tube here, and then I have to do our rear X. The back half will be done, minus the harness bars. So my goal today is to get that done, my dash bar in, my steering wheel remounted, and possibly start looking at getting the seats and the harness bar installed so the back half of the car is finished. I also got a special delivery today from James. We bartered out a deal for some welding that I did in fabrication that I did for him on this little guy. So I'm super pumped about that. This thing is very lightly used, spins free, no shaft play, no nothing, and it's sick. So I'm very excited. It's gonna be a really crazy setup. I'm only shooting for 400 to 450 horsepower, and yeah, I'll just have to make a manifold. So my idea, just while I got you guys here, I want the turbo to sit kind of right here. So I'm gonna have a swept back. You know, most BMWs, they have top mounted front turbos. Well, in this one, I took out all the electronics and moved them into the behind the firewall here. So now I can mount a turbo here with an exhaust coming out or down or however I want to do it there, but keep the turbo on this back side. And yeah, I think it's going to be a really rad setup. So I got to get this cage done so I can get the turbo stuff working on it. So I'm going to quit chatting and just get back to work because I have a lot to do. Yesterday, let's see if we can get the lighting here. There we go. Yesterday we finished up the rear triangulation here. I welded in my rear X brace. On this one I used 1 3/4 by 95 thousandths on my main down tubes. My two supporting tubes on the main hoop are 1 3/4 as well. But since these were so close in proximity to each other, I didn't feel like I really needed all that extra reinforcement, I guess you would say, here. So I just went with 1 1/4 tubing there to just save some weight, and it certainly adds rigidity and supports these tubes and all that. And it's also a good place that I can mount and get my rear radiator figured out. So here's the other side. The other thing I did want to note is I have not yet kind of figured out how I wanted to tie these in. That's something I'm just kind of letting marinate in my old brain there, and I'll figure something out, but I'm just gonna skip that for now. The subframe's already reinforced. I just want to tie it into the cage somehow. But instead of wasting time, it's not really wasting time. Instead of doing things like that right now, that's something I could do when I gusset the doors and things like that. Right now, my main goal is to get everything squared away. So right now I'm working on the dash bar. So as you can see here, I have this side notched. And I do want to note, I think in an earlier video, I did tack weld the tube to the windshield frame. Now, what I'm going to do is clean up all along here, and I'm going to stitch weld this A-pillar tube to the windshield frame. But for now, in order to get this tube in here, I cut these tack welds, and essentially what I'm going to do is pry this apart a little bit. It's going to be really tough, but I should be able to almost pry it apart with the tube here, and then I'll ratchet strap it together. And as you can see, this was a tight gap. Now there's about maybe 3/16 of an inch here, and I will suck that right in when we ratchet strap. So right now I'm just notching, and you can see here, this needs to go up to that section there. So that's how I'm doing that. And then, like I said, I'm going to stitch weld the entire inside of the windshield frame to this tube here. So this effectively will be all one piece. Really not a big deal. This windshield is, it's just there as a windscreen. I mean, it really has no structural integrity at this point. It does, you can probably see here, I don't know if you can see this tube here comes down into there. That's actually part of the windshield, but I'm going to be cutting most of that out. So really tacking the windshield onto the frame here just supports the windshield. But as of right now, I cut most of the structure out, which is getting replaced by roll cage. So another thing I want to note is I cut my steering wheel mounts off. So what I am going to do is redo my steering wheel to make it a little bit lower. I felt it was sitting really high before, so I'm gonna get that all squared away, and what we'll do is we'll triangulate and brace to the mount there. And also one thing I did was cutting this section out, which I had to do in order to get this tube in. I didn't have to cut it all out, and I actually kind of toasted the wires on the windshield wiper motor, so I hope that didn't get all jacked up. But I did have to cut this out, and I just figured I'd cut it all out just because it's just extra weight that doesn't need to be there. But with all that being said, this is that there is my mount for my brake pedal assembly and master brake booster rather. So I need to tab in to here and just create a mount for that as well. Not a big deal. It's actually hitting right now. Wow, you kind of got lucky on that one. So yeah, I'll just weld a straight tab off that, through bolt it, no big deal there. On all these edges too, I have I purchased edging or I don't call it edge protector or whatever it's called. But you can buy different thicknesses. So I just got, I think 1/16. So what I'm gonna do, and along with all of these edges here, I'm just gonna put this rubber trim on it, so I'll have a nice clean look. If anybody is around the car, they're not gonna run their hand on it and cut themselves or anything like that in case there is a sharp edge. Obviously, we've done a ton of cutting on this car, and I've done my best to go and clean everything up, but I do want to just give it that extra, really extra protection so no one gets hurt, because it is pretty easy to, you know, areas like this, you know, catch your elbow or something like that. And yeah, we don't need people bleeding all over the place. But yeah, right now we're just gonna get this dash bar in, and once this dash bar is in and my steering wheel and everything is set up, then I'm going to get my seat mounts done. So just as a plan of attack, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these cross members out here, and I'm going to re-weld in just some rectangle tubing I have. So I'll cut these all out. I'll probably cut these out flat because I want this to sit more or less on the floor. You can see how this one is higher here. So I want to cut this and we'll plate. And okay guys, so we got Vlad here, and as you know, Vlad, if you follow Faster Prompts, he's been helping Jeremy out in his BMW. I've been super busy moving into the shop and doing that, so I kind of took the motor out, and you're putting it all, you're doing the hard part. So, but yeah, you do a lot of tuning with BMWs. You have a Z4, which we're gonna check out in just a minute, but you wrote me a tune for this car. So can you just explain what you did? And because I was explaining to you that I had all the lights on and I was going into limp mode, and I deleted the DISA, I deleted the crankcase ventilation, I deleted the secondary O2 sensors. We did an M50 manifold.
Secondary air pump.
Secondary air pump, yep, 100%. And so there's a lot different on this motor than before we did all that. So explain to me what you did on the computer side of things to get this. So there's, I mean, as of right now, there's no check engine lights that popped on. And the only issue that we had was it did go back into limp mode, but you found it out after we did our little burnout thing there that our idle control valve hose, which this is just cheap heater hose, and this is all ghetto assembled just to get it running because I haven't built an intake for it yet. This is kinked. And you told me that's why it was going to limp mode, correct?
Yeah, it was collapsing under vacuum, and then the idle air control valve wouldn't allow the engine to idle properly.
Okay.
Which the valves actually, they don't go bad too often, but sometimes they'll stick.
Yeah, that's what you
said. You had to clean it up a good
This one was complete. So when I bought the car, I had actually the code said mechanically malfunction idle control valve. So when I had it, it was completely locked up. I soaked it in acetone and 50% acetone, 50% ATF, and that did that overnight, and it freed right up. So that was no big deal.
I hear that click clack when you shake it.
Yep, and it sounded like dice. So that worked mint. So yeah, explain what you did on your end of things. What did you do? You did some tuning. You said you actually wrote me a tune, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously we deleted errors for stuff that isn't there anymore, like the secondary air pump, post-cat oxygen sensors, the DISA valve, the evap purge valve, stuff like that. Another thing was I deleted the engine computer's need to be aligned with the immobilizer module. So what that means is the engine computer is now plug and play into other cars that use this engine management.
Immobilizer, also known as EWS.
Yeah, the EWS. Yeah, so we can actually delete the immobilizer from the car and not need the transponder to. So you can even have them push the start button or something.
Okay, cool.
You know.
Cool. Yeah, I might do something funky like that.
Raise the rev limiter to 7,000 RPM, so that way we can squeeze some more out of the M50 manifold, because the M50 manifold is designed to operate at higher RPM.
Yep. And you said that's totally cool doing too on the 2.5 liter. You probably wouldn't do that on the M.
4 or 3 liter.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because of the stroke.
Yeah.
Harmonic issues, and the oil pump chain will slap around, and.
Yeah, so we don't have to worry about that, but that extra 500 RPM, that's huge, actually.
Yeah,
that's especially where it counts on this intake manifold. And we're not staying in this form for long, but we want it to be nice. We want it to run good and have a nice baseline and a nice performing car that's all. So that extra 500 RPM is going to come in handy up to high RPMs, which is great. And like we were talking about before, we have some fun stuff coming in here. But until we do all that, we were going to get this naturally aspirated and running really good. I want to go through and do maintenance stuff. We're going to get the fuel system. I already started plugging away. I got the Wallboro 450 in it. I got a new fuel filter. I'm going to change all the lines to PTFE lines so we can run straight E85 on this. So we're just going to get it all set up. You're going to send me some links to injectors, and we'll probably do some big injectors since we are going to run E85. And yeah, you're going to be my go-to guy on this because I've never really turboed a naturally aspirated motor on a BMW from start to finish like this. And you have a seriously good handle on it. So I'm going to really lean on you to guide me in the right direction on this swap. Okay, Vlad, let's check out your Z4 here.
Happy to show it.
So talk to me about this car. This is, well, I'll let you do the talking.
Yeah, it's a 2003 Z4 3.0i. It's got the M54 B30 engine. I picked this car up on Craigslist as a piece of crap, and over a couple of years I've turned it into what I think is a pretty neat little project. A lot of fun.
So this is turbocharged.
Yep.
And what kind of turbo? I mean, you essentially went like a budget route with it, right?
The whole setup, I went with a budget route, but at the same time I wanted to use a lot of parts that are factory off of other cars.
Yep.
Because I wanted it to be reliable, I wanted it to be daily drivable.
Yep.
And I wanted to keep my air conditioning because I drive this car a lot. I drive it to work, you know.
What intake or valve cover is this?
So this valve cover is off of the M56 engine.
M56, okay.
M56, which was it was a strange low emissions version of the M54.
Okay. Now, why'd you do that? Just because it's not plastic?
I went with this valve cover because, first of all, I had one lying around off of a car I used to own, and the second reason was because I originally intended to top mount turbocharge the car.
What's up, Jackson? So you're originally on a top mount turbo it.
I was originally going to top mount turbo it, but then I decided that I really want to keep the air conditioning, and I don't want to make custom AC lines.
Gotcha. So this has all AC and everything works proper.
AC compressor, all the factory functions still work.
So we have a cast exhaust manifold here. That's just one of the $120 eBay deals.
$70 shipped.
70? Dang, dude, you got a hot deal.
Yeah. I had to do some machining to it. I made relief cuts between each runner for thermal expansion. And I had it checked, belt sanded, checked for flatness, you know.
Okay. Yeah, I bought a tubular one not that long ago. I just sent it back. I was actually going to use it for the flange. And it was, the flange was warped, and it was just so bad. Like, it was exactly what you would expect for $96 or whatever it was.
Yeah, so the only tubular manifolds that I can somewhat recommend are the CX Racing ones.
Yeah.
And even those you want to weld on some reinforcements on.
And they're like $400 or $500 too, right? So it's not like they're really cheap manifolds.
Yeah.
Speaking of manifolds, you got the M50 intake manifolds.
Yep. And I'm not running an idle air control valve because this is a drive-by-wire throttle body.
Yep, so that's exactly what I wanted to do. So this is the adapter plate, right? So I'll have to figure something like that.
That's made by Metric Mechanic.
Okay.
I had to make that adapter plate.
What size injectors are these? Or what injectors are they?
They're factory injectors for a 997 Porsche GT2 RS.
Awesome. Okay.
60 pound per hour, 630 cc's per minute or so.
Okay. And this is you, Vlad Belsky?
Yep.
Oh, that's hot still.
That's the name of my YouTube channel too.
Okay.
Belsky Auto Works.
So check out Belsky Auto Works on YouTube. And also, just because we're on topic, if you have any kind of BMW tuning, and especially if you're in the Tampa Bay, or not even Tampa Bay area, but really anywhere, Vlad can definitely help you out when it comes to tuning your BMW. So
plug,
yeah, so reach out to Vlad. YouTube, what's your Instagram?
Same thing, Belsky Auto Works.
Belsky Auto Works on Instagram. So check him out, send him a message if you are interested in getting your BMW tuned, because it's hard to come by people that are decent, and it's awesome that you know as much as you do about this stuff. So, and you're BMW specific too, which is great.
At least for now.
Yeah.
I'm looking to expand my horizons.
Oh yeah, I mean absolutely. But you know, I feel more comfort in knowing that you started off with BMWs. You own a BMW. And obviously, just by talking to you, you have a really good handle on specifically these motors, but most BMW motors as well. So that's really good to know. All right, back to the motor here. Blow-off valve, is that just a...
Yeah, that's it's a Chinese
okay.
TL BV50, reliable.
Yeah.
Also, I've baffled the oil pan, so I've got an oil pan baffle.
Okay.
The oil pump nut is safety wired.
Yeah, because you said at high RPMs, those oil pump nuts can back themselves off if they hit the rev limiter. Yeah. They can actually kind of go backwards almost, and then you can have real problems.
Yeah, because with the M54 B30, because of the stroke of the crankshaft, there's some nasty harmonics once you go above the stock red line, and the oil pump chain will slap around, and if the sprocket, especially if the sprocket is warm.
Okay. And it's gotta be hard to see, but you got an intercooler in here, obviously.
Yeah, $80 EM USA eBay intercooler. I get pretty good intake air temperature.
Okay.
It never runs too hot.
And what boost are you running right now?
So I'm running 9-pound spring, and it's just under that. So it's like 8.7 PSI.
8.7 PSI, okay. And you had a dyno over at Jeremy's shop, and what was our number that we hit?
So that was on 7.25 PSI.
Okay.
It dynoed 330 wheel horsepower.
That's great.
Then I upped the boost, and 9 PSI on a different dyno.
Okay.
Dynoed also 330 wheel
That was
horsepower.
on Ricardo's dyno, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Which has a heavier roller. It's a different dyno setup altogether. But then I tuned it a little more, added some more timing in some more spots. So then on Ricardo's dyno, in the end, what I got was 336 wheel horsepower and 325 pound-feet of wheel torque.
Nice. Well, can we see how that feels?
Yeah.
All right, dude, let's go for a spin. Get the top down.
All right.
So what's the exhaust? It's very quiet.
So the exhaust is, it's a Super Sprint 14425 muffler, if I remember the part number correctly.
You're crazy. I could never remember anything like that.
I didn't buy that muffler. It's like $1,000 muffler, but it came on the car when I got the car.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I have welded to that a V-band. And yeah, from there it's just 304 stainless 3-inch pipe for the downpipe.
For a daily driver, I mean, it's, you know, it's got a nice tone to it, but
yeah, it doesn't drone.
It's civilized.
It doesn't drone too badly at all. It's pretty quiet.
It's not like every car I own, which just rattles your brains out, and it's just no good. So.
Do we want to do a little pull here? Or?
Yeah, go ahead. Freaking hit it.
That's 60.
That feels good, dude. It's all turbo noise, which is fine. Yeah. Like, it sounds, and when it comes on, it's freaking, you're lit.
Open wastegate dump.
Yep.
And we can go here too.
Oh, that feels good, dude. Woo!
We don't want to go too crazy here, but
that feels like a strong 300 330 horsepower or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, so I have my S54 E30, and I took you for a quick little ride in it, and you were scared because
there's no seat.
Yeah, that was dicey. That was a bad idea. But it's totally, the power just feels completely different. I mean, it is totally different. Also, you have, is traction control on?
Nope.
Or is it just, okay. But you have an open diff on this car too.
I do, at least for now.
Yeah. So that definitely dramatically changes the feel of it. I mean, because you're not going freaking sideways and into the freaking side of the road, you know what I mean? But dude, that's a good feeling pull. And so do you feel this turbo's maxed out?
Not at all.
Okay.
No.
And what size turbo is this again?
So this is, it's basically, it's a GT35R size turbo.
Okay.
It's a 62 millimeter inducer.
Okay.
And it's got a smaller exhaust side than normal, a 0.63 AR. So
it lights off quick, dude.
Yeah, it's got some pretty quick spool, but from the dyno sheets, the power isn't like going back down.
Yeah, it just keeps pulling. Yeah, it doesn't flatten out or anything.
It's a diagonal line.
Yeah. Right on. Honestly, dude, if the Z-Kart is anywhere close to this power-wise, I'd be thrilled. Yeah. So, because what's this car weigh?
A little bit under 3,000 pounds.
Okay, so my car is essentially be 1,000 pounds less than this.
Yeah.
Even with 330 horsepower, it'd be wild.
Oh yeah.
Dude, that's gonna be so sick.
I can do another bit.
Yeah, dude. Woo! That's awesome, dude. Not bad for a little freaking Z3 or Z4.
Yeah, it's just what I wanted out of this car. I didn't want to go too crazy.
Yeah, because you daily this thing. Yeah. So, I mean, once you start going bananas, then you run into reliability issues and, you know, all that junk that goes along with it. So it's cool to have something that is like that. This screamer pipe is cool. I do like that it just dumps.
I thought about recirculating it, but I just like the sound.
Well, when you're just chilling in traffic, you don't even, you know, it's like whatever.
Exactly.
But when you bean it, it's like, oh, dang, something's going on with this car, you know? So that's awesome.
And if
very cool, dude.
If you tip the throttle in when the wastegate starts to open, you can hear it kind of snarl.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty cool too.
That's awesome, dude. What a great little car. Oh, this gets me so pumped up. And how long have you been driving on this exact setup?
I would say since December of last year. So at this point, like 8 months, I put over 3,000 miles on it already.
All right. Right on, man. Well, thank you for the ride. That's sick.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I like sharing this with you.